So, hello and welcome to the fifth and final module introduction. We'll have a few more weekly lesson introductions, but this is our final module introduction. Final module termed the early liberal era.
Right.
Looking at the early 19th century, looking at, well, just as the title suggests, at the kind of emergence of liberal, well, no, emergence is the wrong word because we've been looking at this for a while, but certainly the consolidation of liberalism in political practices in Europe and America in this time period, and how they're kind of figuring out what to do in this emerging democracy, now much more liberal society, where freedoms and the rules of government have changed really so much since that revolutionary era. So really, we have a big question as we do in every lesson and in every module, and our big lesson for this module is, what was the impact of liberal thinking on the European colonial powers, agents, however you might want to term them, which is, unfortunately, shows a kind of limitation of the course because it means we're not really seeing how this is influencing African-American thinking. We'll see some of that in some of our abolition readings you'll see next week, or actually this week. But we won't see it in Africa. We won't see it with indigenous people.
Right.
So there's a real limit to how far we can see it. But certainly in terms of the big picture, in terms of how liberalism is spreading in the West, we'll certainly get a good sense of the adaptations and accommodations that need to be made in this new era. And really, these are responses to what we saw in the past few weeks, those revolutions, those revolutions and the important changes that they brought about.
Yeah, and if anyone at this point is wondering, well, what is liberal about liberalism, or what is this liberalism that we're talking about, we might just point everyone to that famous phrase, all men are created equal.
Right.
We're looking at the implications in this module of that kind of thinking, liberal thinking.
Liberalism is much more complicated than that, but that's an important core.
Right, and it's so important for our own sense of political identity in democratic societies today. And then there's a big but. And it's so important for thinking about the changes that are taking place that we're examining in these module lessons. And well, the basic but is, all men are created equal. What about women? And do slaves count as men? Those are big
when they're property.
Right. And even after slaves are freed, what are the relationships between people who control money and organize work and the people who do the work? These are profound and in some ways disturbing questions that are problems at the foundation of modern democracies.
Absolutely.
And so it requires some thought. It requires, for historians, careful thought and work with sources.
Right.
That's what we're going to be doing in this module. And then this is a chance to pull everything together finally for the course too. So we're looking at the era of early democracies. We started a course in which we were looking at monarchies. So
absolutist governments, not liberal democratic ones.
Governments. So everyone has to think about the big transformation that has taken place over the course of several centuries in European political, social, cultural, and economic life, and what that means, how it all fits together, how we can answer the big course question.
Right. So we've only got 2 lessons in this module.
Right.
One on abolition, one on and it's an important distinction to make. We really only look at the British success because the American one won't happen until after the American Civil War, and that's kind of beyond our time period. They're certainly part of similar movements, but we won't really see that in our course. So we'll see British abolition, and then we'll look at that post-abolition moment, which is really interesting because, of course, we've got this entire, well, in the case of the British world, the Caribbean, which is these sugar plantations and so on that are run on slave labor. How will you run those after slavery is abolished? How will you continue to make these things work? And so British policymakers have to deal with that. So those are complex questions that we'll be pursuing. But again, that's an examination of what it means to live in a liberal era.
Yeah.
Toolbox. Do we have a toolbox this week?
Well, implicitly, yes, because this is a module in which everyone gets a chance to practice the skills that we've learned in this course. But there is no toolbox formally.
So nothing new here.
Nothing new. Lots to practice,
Right.
but nothing new to practice.
That makes perfect sense. We're also trying to encourage you to be working on your assignments during this module.
Mhm.
Having said that, we also still expect you to be contributing to the forums every week.
Yeah.
You've got fewer readings this week. I think it's
This module.
Sorry, this module. Sorry, correction there. But still an expectation that you keep up on the readings, that you continue to contribute to the forums, but lighter in terms of what needs to be accomplished.
Which is meant to give you an opportunity not just to do your assignments, but also to look back on everything that we have read in the course.
Yeah, to think about it. And remember, too, after the assignment is submitted, you'll have an exam. And that will be, if you'll recall from our first introductory video for the course, we
Yeah.
told you what the big question for the course was. That exam will be not exactly that question, because I don't remember exactly what we said in that video, but certainly the rough question is approximately exactly that.
Ish.
Ish. Exactly. Okay.
Go to it.
Enjoy Module 5, the final module in the course, and begin thinking about those big questions and pulling some things together.